Hello my friends, I'm Lucas and you're watching coldemonspl. If you like my work, please remember to click thumb up, subscribe to my channel and write some comments.
First of all, I would like to mention my wonderful patrons who support my activity. Massive thanks, guys! These are people who believed in my passion, saw something valuable in it and decided to support me. It's really great when you know that there are a few crazy guys in the world who think like you, want to watch what you do and appreciate the effect of your work. This is really super motivating and gives you the strength to continue working. Please don't forget that you can be one of them. Just check my Patreon page and decide if you want to stay with me or go back home. There are different options to join, but you need to decide by yourself. Once you join, you will be able to surf on my page with no limits, watch and download all superb high-resolution pictures, watch progress shots, check stories with unpublished in other media's models, read the articles, watch the videos with no adverts and enjoy other benefits. Thanks to this, I will try to give you some interesting content to keep you informed and entertained. I'm not pushing, but you know, I'd like to make millions from modeling and this is the easiest way. I'm joking of course, but the truth is that it would be great to do this as a regular job. The only way is to build the channel and get new patrons. That's why in each episode I encourage you to support me in my passion. And I realize it's not easy these days, but if you have a few bucks you could drop in my cup, that would be great. Thanks! Finally got a package with a model from AK Interactive and inside a Toyota FJ43 pickup with DSK on the back. I must admit that the box art is very impressive and I was impressed from the very beginning, the same as in the case of the second hardtop version. Of course, in the Open the Box series there is a full review, so if you are interested in what the content of the box look like, click the link at the top or in the description of the film. For me the biggest problem was finding the right reference materials and inspirations. The vehicle is quite popular, but when we enter it in the search engine, the results show more modern Toyota cars. Fortunately, I found a few photos on the producer's website and in the depths of the internet. They don't all show exactly the version I'm building, but they are close enough to use as a reference. In addition, help was provided by a friend from Lebanon, who also sent me some valuable information about this car. Thanks a lot, Imad. I conducted the construction as shown in the manual. The most important thing for me was that the model parts fit very well and it was a pleasure to work on it. And I'm not saying that for AK company to make them satisfied, but it was actually so. I like that in the manual we have additional descriptions explaining the construction process and any doubts. I actually started it at 10 AM and finished it at 5 PM. I had a lunch break on the way, so 7 hours of work on building the model from start to finish is a very good time. This is also the reason why I didn't record much footage on this process. Of course, it wasn't possible to leave some elements without special treatment. This is most visible on the fenders, which I gently bent with flat pliers and cut with the hobby knife to make them look damaged by uncareful driving. Besides, I also used a drill. The vehicle will be completed in rebel service somewhere in Africa or the Middle East, so it cannot look like new straight from the factory. I was wondering what type of weapon set on this pickup, because in many photos you can see that it's equipped with recoilless guns or various ZPU versions. In the end I decided to stay with DSK because it's made well and it makes no sense to replace it with anything else. The producer has prepared two sets of tires for us that can be used in the model, one with an aggressive and the other with a typical civilian tread. For me this is a great solution because I didn't have to think which type to use. I took both, so in result one of the rear wheels has a civilian tread and so is the spare wheel. All tires have been heavily sanded to slightly wear away the shape and pattern. It's quite characteristic, and I've noticed this in the pictures that the tires are almost bald, especially on older vehicles, because rebel drivers in those areas don't care too much about regular replacements and the safety requirements to which we are used to. The test fitting of all the elements showed how well prepared the model is. All the main elements, which are the chassis, wheels, body and seats, as well as the roll bars, fit perfectly. So as a result I've got what you can see on the screen right now. Before I even started working on the painting, I made a small correction on one of the seats. It was enough to bend the backrest a bit and we have a more non-standard look. I think that it would be possible to even make this seat fully unfolded or folded up, but it's a bit more work. As I always do with my models, the individual elements were put on wooden sticks for easier manipulation in the case of painting. The fact that on some elements, such as on the chassis, a hole will remain, but fortunately no one will look at the chassis when the model is attached to the stand. You can cover it with a little round plug at the end, and I will try to do it if I don't forget. Here a little tip on how to attach an element such as roll bars on a toothpick. Okay, when everything is ready we start with cleaning the model using model degreaser. The product evaporates quickly, so we can start painting a few minutes after cleaning. I divided the elements of the vehicle into two groups. One had a body and frame and I painted them with a silver primer and the rest with black. You will know why I did it in a moment. First, the black painting with a mixture of paint and satin varnish. I wanted the paint coating to have a bit of gloss, although it would all be dusty after that. But never mind. The seat painted on the box art is checked. I don't know how much it has to do with reality and whether there were such covers in the Toyota cars, but it looks nice. And of course I decided to paint it. I followed the drawing from the manual a bit, where the producer showed a sample painting and colors, but I did a bit to my own, changing the colors. A well stabilized hand is the basis in this painting, because every mistake takes at least 2 steps back to apply corrections. I painted the second seat with sand, and this way I have a bit of variety in the crew compartment. The whole body covered with a silver undercoat now is sprayed with easy chipping medium. I guess you already know what will happen next. But before I started painting this most important element, I prepared the colors for the wheels. I painted the rims black and the tires dark grey, and more specifically rubber black, because this is the name of the color. The civilian pattern of the tires got a slightly lighter shade because I used a bit of paint that was left from painting the seat and I added it to the base color. And of course I cut off the part of the letter U in the tire producer name. And we start painting the base color, bottom and top just like the factory. I don't know if the bottom was secured with any special paint of a different shade. If so, I will live with this mistake. If it was remained in the color of the body, then I'm on the right way. A few moments after the paint had dried, I started the destruction. A bit of water, an old brush, toothpick and tweezers did the job of creating scratches and chips all over the model. Each of these tools has a different effect on the destruction of the paint layer and creates a different type of scratch. It's all a matter of choosing the right toy. Only the most important thing. You need to know the moment when to stop. Better less than more. Because my model will be a rebel vehicle, so the paint job will be rebellious. Let's imagine that Toyota is in the hands of some militia and the driver decides to paint it a little so that it has a more military character. But he only has a yellow paint spray can on hand and some leftover of brown paint. So his painting works are early Picasso and late Cironi. Well, seriously speaking, I wanted my model to be a little different in terms of color than the one from box art that serves as model for many modelers. Of course, blue looks great on this model, but red is even better. I painted all the spots with Tamiya paints. The producer added small decal to speedometer, oil control, temperature and more. Of course, it's worth sticking them on and additionally applying a little glossy varnish. The entire exhaust pipe is painted in a metallic color. Later there will be various effects, for example a bit of rust and above all, dirt. Next I used the pigment cement for the glass of the headlights on the front and additionally stuck them with strips of insulating tape. Despite its thickness, it looks pretty good and I'm just wondering if these strips shouldn't be a bit longer. All of the lights at the front and rear were first painted with normal acrylic paints and then covered with transparent glossy varnishes. The effect is enough. I glued the frame to the body and added the seats. The model begins to take shape. There are also the roll bars that make the appearance of the pickup more sporty. The dashka support was lightly painted with dark brown, which gave quite a nice effect before weathering. I glued it into place right away. In the end I make some minor modification of the tires. Unfortunately, there are no resin tires available yet and I don't know if they will be at all, so this solution is the simplest thing you can do to make them look more natural. Following the suggestions of my friend, I decided to paint one rim white. It will be a good color variety, although here it's still colorful. By the way, pay attention to how cool the inscriptions on the tires are. A little bit of silver for the screws, a hole for wooden stick and we can start the wash. If someone would like to ask if there is a glossy or satin varnish on the model, my answer is there is no satin or glossy varnish on the model. I decided to apply wash directly on the paint. This is due to the fact that the model has well-made details and the wash should fit perfectly even in the absence of colorless varnish. You can check how it actually happened. For me it was a quick job, the effect is exactly what I wanted and there is no need to talk too much. The next stage of weathering is the base for pigments called general dustiness. I paint it normally with buff paint, which I dilute in normal ratio to the consistency of the milk. By the way, I don't know why this is compared to milk, but probably everyone knows what I'm talking about. The assumption is that the vehicle is used rather in desert terrain, therefore the dust will be certainly visible and exposed. It's important to reach all nooks and crannies, so I paint the model in different positions. By mistake I pressed the wrong button on the camera and I didn't record how I paint the upper surfaces of the model. But look at the places I'm pointing with hobby knife. Everywhere in the depressions and on flat surfaces such as the wheel arch, I delicately painted the dust, which becomes even more emphasized and diversified by applying pigments. Even on the seats a bit of dust will not be a mistake, especially since the vehicle is completely uncovered, so it's perfectly justified. In fact, after driving a few kilometers of sandy road, the dust would be totally everywhere, so I treated the model gently without applying paint all over the place. Well, it would be pointless, and from a modeling point of view it wouldn't look good. Several times I saw realistically dusty models, and apart from the first impression that the author made a real representation of reality, the rest wasn't so positive. It just wasn't looking good. One rule still works well: better less, done more. The best way to get a good dry mat on a vehicle like this Toyota is to look underneath your own car. Of course, you have to take into account the fact that it's an off-road vehicle and doesn't ride too often on highways, so a good balance in building the effect is very recommended. To get the effect like here, all you need is pigment and any fixer. In this case it's the Tamiya thinner, and that's the way to do it. More on the wheel arches, less on the rest of the vehicle. And of course don't forget to use accelerator. Unfixed pigment will be recommended to visit your workshop, and the rest will sit quite firmly on the surface of the model. In addition, it's better not to leave the thinner on the paint for too long because it may damage it, which is the last thing we would like at this point. The pigmented dust must be applied to the remaining uncoated surfaces and nooks and crannies. You can also add some spills and stains, which I will prepare in a moment. Of course the wheels get dirty as well as the rest of the vehicle. For now I'm not wiping the surface that touches the asphalt, because I don't know yet how the stand for the model will look like. The pigment stays on the wheels without the use of the fixer. I also apply small amounts inside the vehicle. Every car gets dirty and it's clear, especially for the parents who ride with their children. And in the case of such technical, dirt and dust are natural elements of the equipment. Well, because somehow I find it hard to believe that its driver regularly cleans it and keeps the interior of the vehicle in good condition. Of course, the pigment is also sold here with thinner, fixer, whatever. Now I can finally glue the wheels. On the one hand, CA glue would do the job in a second, but on the other hand, the standard plastic glue gives you the ability to fine-tune the wheel alignment, so in my opinion, if you have any doubts and they are not resin wheels, I suggest using normal glue. Without a doubt, the machine gun adds some character to this car. AK made on import and the replica of this weapon looks decent. I could replace a few elements with metal ones because I have a set from RB model, but I forgot about it, and just after building I found a string bag with the parts. Never mind. As I said, it doesn't mean the plastic is weak. Weathering on the gun is just as important as on the rest of the vehicle. The weakest option would be to leave this element in a perfect finish with a beautiful metallic sheen. The through is completely different, and this is confirmed by the photos and my own experience with the gun. So don't be afraid and make some dust on the gun. As always, you can also use the accelerator to speed up the drying process. Talking about the rust, here I wouldn't be as generous as with dust. A little here and there. I used weathering paint for this, but you can also paint it with oil paints or whatever you use for this effect. And of course a metallic sheen made with a soft pencil and a silicone tip. Finally, a bit of pigment to unify the weapon with the vehicle, but also to add some real dust. If you will ask if it's worth having fun with this element, I can say that it's worth trying, and I sincerely recommend you to try if you haven't done it before and you want your model to look interesting. The vehicle dirty continues. I made stains and oil spills with undiluted wash. At the fuel filler I first painted a leak from the filler cap, but then I started to think about it and washed the part off. Now I'm wondering again if I should go back to the original version. By the way, you can see how easy it is to remove the wash from the paint surface using pure white spirit. I also treated additional elements, for example all boxes, with pigments. They would look weird without the right amount of dust. The front tire of course doesn't have a cut off as it is with those mounted on the vehicle. The cow skull comes from the Mantis miniature set. Originally there is a rat in its center, but I cut it off. I used acrylic paints for painting, and at the end I added 2 drops of dark brown wash. It's a great addition and fits perfectly with my vehicle. I added a little amount of glue and then tied it with a piece of thin wire, which I wrapped around the headlights and threaded it through the eye holes. It looks great. Truly speaking, this is the pure example of personalization of the model, because I'm sure there is no other identical. For me, it's like the author's signature, after which everyone who deals with modeling will know from whose hand this model came out. And it's also a reflection of the style that the author presents on his models. If someone builds a lot and shows results in social media, you can recognize his work after some time without reading the description, just through such small elements. A bit of fumes at the end of exhaust pipe looks a bit too much, but for the needs of the model it's okay. Let's say that the car has little problems with the engine. From my previous models I had painted pieces of paper that I used to make loose tarps, covers and more. If you haven't watched my previous movies, I recommend you to watch the tutorial in the link above. In short, it's a paper towel soaked in water, paint and PVA glue. When it's dry, it's difficult to shape it, but after being lightly soaked with water, it fits perfectly on the model and can be shaped into various shapes. In order to harden it, it's enough to slightly moisten it with water and glue and leave it to dry. A piece of string from the car's air freshener is perfect for an imitation of thick rope. In this case I only made a wash, but you can also paint it as I did on the Tiger M. One of the last additions are empty metal shells from Master Model. Obviously this is a Browning kit, but I don't think anyone will recognize it when they are on the model. The difference in dimension is so small that it is imperceptible. Before I glued them to the model, I covered all the shells with a few drops of wash and let them dry. It's enough for them to look appropriate. I arranged them in a random way, although this randomness was controlled. That is, the shells found themselves in nooks rather than in the open surfaces, because they would naturally roll down there while driving. Pure physics, gravity and whatever. Everyone drives a car and knows how different things behave when we transport them without protection. Once they were in place, a drop of fixer would keep them glued permanently. I almost forgot to make the plug I mentioned in the previous episode. I knocked out a piece of plastic from RP Tools punch and die set and glued it in the right place. When painted and dusted with pigment, it looks like an engine component. And on the end, couple oil stains on the engine and drive shaft. And that's it. Needless to say, I'm happy with the result, right? Although the model is small, the whole thing turned out great, and this is confirmed by modelers who saw this project done before it was shown in public. Please write in the comments section what do you think about it. For me, this is the first technical I have done, and I have to admit that I like this topic very much. There are so many possibilities that I even have a Toyota plastic logo for another stand. I just have to think about when I will have time to implement my intentions. So many models to build, so little time. Okay, thanks for watching this episode and the entire series. If you are here for the first time and if you like what I do, please subscribe to the channel, give me a like and write a comment. It would be great if you share this material on your social media, because maybe your friends don't know about coldemonspl. This is small thing but can help in promotion. So you have a chance to make something special for all mankind and especially for me. For now, remember to check out my Patreon and join the club. That's all for today, see you next time, cheers!